Pursuit, in a lot of ways, allows business owners to, I hate to use a tagline, but we lend power to potential, right? So, what I mean by that is a story that really resonates with me is that there is a father son business owner combination that opened up or wanted to open up an off Broadway performance house theater in Babylon, Long Island. The father was a former, the son was a B-list actor from the show Boston Public in the 1990s. So, through nothing short of a business plan and a lot of grit, we were actually able to get them about $2.2 million to acquire the property, fully renovate the space, get all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, as well as some initial working capital. And that was nothing more than based on a business plan with a set of projections. So that to me really encapsulates who we are and what we do.
Welcome to Trust AI Partners, where we dive into the cutting edge of tech innovation. Join us as we explore how AI automation is transforming the industry. If you're ready to discover the future of AI innovation and how your company can get ahead, stay tuned and connect with us for more information. I'm your host, Jim Hoover, and joining us today is Jimmy Venia, or Venia. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Jimmy?
Venia, yeah.
Venia, okay. VP at Pursuit, one of the most consistent top producers in SBA 504 lending. He's supported businesses ranging from $5 million to $150 million in annual revenue and brings deep experience across capital advisory, event production, and government contracting at the city, state, and federal levels. Jimmy, welcome. Great to have you here. Before we dive in, could you introduce yourself and share what you're focused on today at Pursuit?
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much for having me on here, Jim. It's great to be here. So my name is Jimmy Venia. I am a commercial lender here at a company called Pursuit. So we've been around since 1955. We're one of the oldest, largest, and most well-regarded community development corporations and community development financial institutions across the country. We focus on helping business owners access capital that are traditionally deemed not bankable for one reason or another. And that's typically done through a combination of the SBA 504 and 7A loan programs, as well as about 15 other non-SBA related loan programs. Prior to that, I was a consultant for the city of New York under the Minority and Women Business Enterprise Program, where I helped business owners to be able to utilize the certification to be able to access city, state, and federal contracts in accordance with a law change here in New York.
Okay. And so, Jimmy, what's one recent client story that really captures what you and Pursuit do best?
Sure. So great question. So Pursuit, in a lot of ways, allows business owners to, I hate to use a tagline, but we lend power to potential, right? So what I mean by that is a story that really resonates with me is that there is a father-son business owner combination that opened up or wanted to open up an off Broadway performance house theater in Babylon, Long Island. The father was a former psychologist. The son was a B-list actor from the show Boston Public in the 1990s. So through nothing short of a business plan and a lot of grit, we were actually able to get them about $2.2 million to acquire the property, fully renovate the space, get all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, as well as some initial working capital. And that was nothing more than based on a business plan with a set of projections. So that to me really encapsulates who we are and what we do. There's a lot of misconception about SBA lending that it's only for, mom and pop or smaller companies that are not, credit worthy. That's actually not true. But Pursuit's sweet spot is really helping business owners take their idea to reality.
Okay. And so tell me about the biggest pain that you're seeing right now for SMBs seeking financing. Where is that at, and what's the root cause of it?
Sure. So it depends on how much time you have, right? So there's a couple of things that come to that. So number one is having a clear understanding of what SBA lending actually is and is not. So oftentimes borrowers will either go to their CPA or their lawyer or a commercial banker. And when the topic of SBA comes up, usually they're shunned away from it because it either takes too long or it's too complicated or it's only for certain types of companies. So that really drives a very strong negative image of what SBA lending is. SBA, for lack of a better term, is a game. You tell the right story, you move ahead. You don't tell the right story, you don't move ahead. And then one of the other big challenges that we're seeming to face is that borrowers, and people in general, I think because of the change in technology, want everything yesterday and not understanding that this is somewhat of a process which is being changed through automation. Hopefully will improve it, but it does take a little bit longer than, a merchant cash advance that takes a week. And borrowers need to set those expectations up front, or have those expectations set up front, actually.
Got it. How would you describe the current state of the lending environment?
It used to be a lot more fun. Let's put it that way. So when I say that, through a number of things, so economic uncertainty, obviously the government shutdown has really impacted a lot of stuff for any SBA lender across the country. But generally speaking, SBA lending is actually counter-cyclical to the general economy. So when the economy is not doing as well overall, SBA lending tends to go up because of the government guarantee. So believe it or not, we're actually quite busy. But on that same note, a lot of larger banks, so let's say the big four, like the Chase, Wells Fargo, TD, Bank of America, they're actually a lot stricter in their credit box now. So unless you already have an existing deposit relationship that's significant, most larger banks are not as free in their lending criteria as they used to be, which allows for community banks and SBA lenders like us to be able to fill that gap.
I see. And when you're speaking of how busy you are, without saying anything that might be confidential, are you able to speak to or give the audience a sense of the size and the scale of the current workload, clients in the pipeline, with whatever numbers you're comfortable sharing?
Sure. So on average, I'm working on anywhere between 8 and 12 transactions at a time. So annually, just to give you contextual size and numbers, I oversee a team that does $55 million a year. I myself, on top of that, bring in another 25 at an average loan size somewhere between $1.5 million and $3 million. So that gives you a picture of the sense of volume that comes through there. So we're certainly busy. I'm fortunate in the sense that because of the background of the prior part of my career in economic development, which is really the other side of business lending, I've been able to develop a pretty robust presence here in the city of New York. So in terms of being busy, I do see, like I said, between 8 and 12 at a given time. So it's kind of like juggling and spinning plates. And one thing that I have to emphasize, which is really important, is that at the end of the day, we're here to help borrowers. And my father was an entrepreneur. I grew up around this. I truly love this line of work. However, it's important to have borrowers understand that we got to help us help you. And when I say that, oftentimes, someone will say, I give you a checklist of 10 things. They give you one. And then they're like, oh, am I okay now? It's like, no, you gotta work with me, right? So,
and what is that typical duration of the sales cycle last? How long is that?
sure. So from when we receive everything, usually takes us about 2 weeks to underwrite, send to SBA, which again, absent the shutdown, would take about another week or so to approve. So start to approval is usually about 30 days. From start to finish could be as low as 45, as long as 90. And the reason why I give that range is that you have to account for certain things like an appraisal or a business valuation or an environmental report if someone is purchasing property, and or any of the other things that come up throughout the process. In particular, things that you don't really know about until the end, like when you do a survey on a building and there's I believe it's encroachment is the right term, or there's some sort of other pre-existing violation on the building that the old owner didn't cure, which you are now responsible for. So those things can certainly drag out the process, but in an ideal world, 45 to 60. In the real world, 45 to 90.
I see. Okay. And which borrower profiles are the best fit to scale Pursuit?
Yep. So it's funny because, like I said, the SBA allows for a maximum exposure of $5.5 million. So that is just our piece of the transaction because the 504 loan has two parties involved: a 50% first mortgage lender, a 40% second provided by Pursuit on behalf of the SBA because the SBA doesn't lend money, and then the borrower comes up with 10%. So in theory, you could be doing a transaction that's 12, 13, 14, $15 million. Now, for me, even though, yes, I do have a number of startup borrowers, just by default and just through it being New York City and just, I don't know, maybe I get along with these type of people more, is that a lot of my borrowers are large manufacturers, very large contractors, large wholesalers, big doctor practices that are either acquiring another practice or expanding into a new location. So it really does run the gamut, which is really one of the cool things about kind of this job is that it's almost like getting paid to go to grad school.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. And so these, when you say larger businesses in context, we're talking 10 to 100 million, 10 to 50 million,
Yep.
somewhere in
Yep.
there.
Anywhere usually from 10 to 100 million. Now, fun fact is that SBA defines a small business not necessarily by revenue, but by employee count. So I'll give you an example. A borrower of mine is one of the largest concrete contractors in the city of New York. They do about 125 million a year. They have 140 employees. So yes, are
Hmm.
they small by the definition? Sure. Are they small in terms of the scale of their operation? Absolutely not.
Yeah, got it. That makes sense. Uh, and so if you look at 12 to 18 months, what does an ideal state look like for Pursuit?
Sure. So two things. So one is that we actually use or implement better technology to support the back end. And when I say the back end, I mean in terms of underwriting and closing. I don't think that will ever really AI will ever fully replace the front end, let's say the lender, so to speak, because there are nuances within credit that the numbers just or an AI system just can't pick up yet. But ideally, it would be a much more automated back end credit decision box. And then, most importantly, utilizing AI software to be able to read the financial statements and tax returns and provide some sort of, let's call it like either an elevator analysis or more importantly, this is particular to SBA lending, is that when we receive a tax return and I look at your Schedule E and you have 5 companies on there, all of them might not be related to this particular borrowing. However, SBA requires full disclosure. So I have to know about all 5 of them. So rather than have to look at the tax return to compile the checklist, it would be automating that entire process, which would be.
And so, what steps have you taken or so far, or plan to take, in order to research and vet out those tools that are going to help the processing become more efficient?
Yeah, so as of now, we've actually worked with a couple of different vendors, one of which is a company called Cirrus, to be able to develop a platform similar to what I'm talking about. However, it's not really there in terms of the technology of being able to read the financial statements, nor from I would assume from a liability standpoint, like where that really kind of falls. So I'm a lot of things, but lawyer is not one of them. We're working towards that. But in the interim, I hate to use such a simple answer. It's getting the grunt work up front. A lot of people don't understand that this line of work is actually 80% soft skills and 20% technical knowledge. And the reason
Mm.
why I say that is that when you walk into a room with a certain type of borrower, let's say a manufacturer, it's when you ask them questions, it's reading their body language. Do they look at you in the face when they talk to you? Do they get nervous when you answer certain kinds of questions? I'm very fortunate that absent being in banking for a long time and having great mentors, my father, God rest his soul, taught me some of the most valuable skills that I've ever learned in my entire adult life. So that's really been beneficial for me.
Yeah. And so, what's the general marketing strategy for Pursuit?
Yeah, so it really depends on who you ask, but for me, I never really like to rely on having all of my eggs in one basket. Now, the reason why I say that is that number one, the 504 program is a partnership loan between a commercial bank and a CDC like us. So oftentimes lenders will be marketing directly and only to bankers. Now, that's not how I operate. The reason why I say that is that if one was to understand the economic development landscape of a city like New York, there are so many other, let's call them tentacles, that are outside of banking. So, community based organizations, trade associations, local economic development corporations, and particularly in New York City, there are a number of brick and mortar centers called small business development centers where someone could go in and essentially get help with writing a business plan or something like that. And I, because of my relationships with them, have basically done. I almost like to say, calling it me creating a sales force for yourself. So again, it's really simple. What are your goals? What are my goals? How do we get to them together, right? So that I teach you enough that I don't expect you to be an expert. That's not your job. But I expect you, I give you enough information so that when you hear 2 or 3 buzzwords, you know that I'm the person to call. And then the second part of that, which almost goes without saying, is being a man of your word, right? So a big part of this line of work is relationship building and trust. So you have to show that you're capable of delivering.
Uh, What are the geographical limitations for your client base?
Yep. So we're in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Chicago, Las Vegas, or sorry, Nevada, and we're expanding into Florida too.
Okay. Are there any plans to expand?
Yes, so we are in the middle of doing that. Part of that falls under a certain type of license that you have to have from the SBA. It's called a Preferred Lending Partner License, a PLP license, and it's usually done, or once one has it, it's through continue. You're allowed to go via contiguous states. So we expand from New York to New Jersey, then the next contiguous state is Connecticut, then so on and so forth, going all the way up and down the East Coast. So each time you're in a state and you do well there, they allow you to expand the PLP to the next contiguous state in any direction.
Okay. And so what has the year over year growth looked like over the past 1 to 2 years, and how do you see that shaping and evolving in the next 1 to 2 years?
Sure. So the last 2 years, again, have been very interesting in terms of growth. We've done very, very well. I'm thankful that not only have I had great mentors throughout my career, but I'm very thankful that I have a team of pretty young, like hungry guys and girls that work for me that really want to make something of themselves. So we've grown as a team. To put this in context, as the younger on the younger side of leadership, we're probably one of the most, if not the most, profitable teams in the company. And what's more important than that, that growth has been done through nothing more than hard work. So I've learned with leadership that if you want a team to follow the lead, you have to show them that you're willing, ready, and able to do anybody's job, including your own. So you lead by example, right? I never ask any of my lenders to do anything that I haven't already done or am not currently doing. So it allows me to show you that I'm not just some guy that sits behind the desk. So that has allowed us to be able to grow as a group. And I also allow them to kind of tell their own story, right? So don't ask me what I should do. Tell me what you think you should do and why it'll work, rather than having a more authoritative kind of style of leadership. And then where I see that going in the future, I see that continuing to grow with the company and with me as an individual as I transition out into full entrepreneurship myself. And I see that being done through, doing things, and I hate to sound simple, but doing things differently than everyone else, leading with authenticity. Yes, bankers are great, and yes, it's nice to wear a white button-up shirt. But when you're walking into a manufacturing plant with a guy that does $100 million a year, if you're not authentic and you don't lead with authenticity, they don't really care what you're wearing.
Yeah. No, you reminded me, Jimmy, of something similar that you said there that I've heard from other people and practiced in a former life, but it's that general leadership method of being able to talk to somebody who is maybe struggling with an issue, and instead of just solving the problem for them, you ask them to state what the problem or challenge is in front of them, and then state what they feel is the best solution or what they're leaning towards as a potential solution, and what's the desired outcome. And then once you have those three pieces of information, then it's more helpful to step in and help somebody work through that problem in their head, where it's teach to fish, give a fish sort of a dynamic with an end result. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and I really like to try to, again, the whole idea of, yes, you report to me, any of that is all great. We're all in this together. At the end of the day, It's my job, because I've had great leaders in my career, it's my job to take what I view as the strengths of each one of the people that work for me and pull them out of them. So how do I do that, right? If I know somebody's really good at BD or public speaking, I put you in a spot that, hey, it's your turn. I'll be sitting in the back. If you need me, I'm here, but you're up.
The other one that somebody I had a former mentor that said to me many times is, if I weren't here, what do you think I would say? It's a good but anyway, moving on. So what do you see? So in terms of the outreach, the marketing strategy, the digital marketing strategy, what are you seeing so far? Looking back as What's worked, what's not worked, what are the most effective methods, mediums, or channels that you've put in place?
Yeah, so let's start with what doesn't work. A lot of the times, what doesn't work are simple things like email blasts, or like join our newsletter or things like that, right? Because 9 times out of 10, either somebody throws it right in the spam or they don't even read it anyway. So aside from being out and active in the community, like meaning physically walking the street and being present at many industry events and stuff like that. One of the other things that I've started to learn, and I'm still learning it myself, is utilizing social media tools, and not necessarily like a LinkedIn. Like, yes, LinkedIn is helpful, but I mean for this new upcoming generation of entrepreneurs that are not necessarily in a manufacturing plant, they're developing a tech company or they're developing an online retailer. It's using things like TikTok or Instagram to be able to put videos together of the way I've deemed it as illustrating our work. So how it started, how it's going, right? You'll see when you walk into the building that somebody buys that's falling apart, and then you do how it's going, and you see the completed beauty of the project that's been done. So like that theater in Long Island, or a theater or a movie theater in Brooklyn called the Nighthawk Theater, which is a large, like high-end movie theater where they have like full dinner and drinks and stuff like that. It was an old abandoned movie theater that we did a $20 million 504 for, to be able to rehab it and do everything like that. Now, the other part too is connecting again directly with the ancillary parts of the community. So in New York City, there's things called business improvement districts. They're a public-private partnership that are designed to make an area of the city more advantageous and essentially promote economic growth in the area. So one of the things that they do is, like, for example, when someone's applying for a liquor license, they have to go to the bid and the community board to get approval. So I will be at some of those meetings. I'm not necessarily inviting. I'll just show up there because it's open to the public, right? So a lot of, I hate to say it, but a lot of really good tricks of the trade are not really that complicated. Just put in the work.
And so what's the ratio between that warm networking sort of effort to bring in new clients versus the actual outbound methods?
Yep. So to be honest with you, I think that we should be improving more on our inbound leads coming to us. I think that not only just us, but banks in general and banking as a whole is so indoctrinated into this idea of relationship management that the banker or the lender has to be out building relationships all the time. I don't disagree with that. However, I think that there's a way to work a lot smarter, not a lot harder, in terms of how you market yourself to the community that you're serving, which is something that I believe not only just Pursuit, but banks in general need to be better at.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, but with the number of states that you're in, that you're licensed in the Northeast, it's nearly impossible for you to be able to market those territories that are not local to your home base, without doing the outbound strategies, right?
That's absolutely correct, and that's a challenge that not only myself but other teams are facing too, right? I can only be in so many places in a given day. So how do you leverage technology to not eliminate the authenticity piece, because that's really important, B, give a clear and direct, short and concise message, but more importantly than both of those, spark interest, right? So I think it's a combination of having the right technology team that understands what product or platform or whatever it might be needs to be used, but also having the right, let's call it like the right front man, right? So you're not just going to get like an email that engages you so much that, oh my God, I have to call these people. No, you're going to see some sort of visual depiction that resonates with you as a person. So I think it's for us is finding somewhere in the middle of those two things where it allows us to be able to have a broader footprint without me traveling to 20 different towns in one day.
Yeah. And so what external marketing partners have you experimented with, and how do you evaluate what's going to be a good fit for for Pursuit and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so we've worked with quite a few external marketing partners, been both in terms of putting collateral together or online marketing strategies. I haven't really been a big fan of most of them, and the reason being is that one of the big evaluators for me is, again, I hate to keep hammering home the same point, but when I say authenticity in this matter, it's understanding who you're talking to, right? So when I was working as a consultant for the city, I went to the NFL Business Connect for when the Super Bowl was in New York and New Jersey in 2014, I want to say. And there was a panel with the chief marketing officer of Disney that was on it. And the one thing that he said that resonated with me is that if you connect to people's hearts, 9 times out of 10, their heart is tied to their wallet. Now, it's not necessarily because I'm trying to get something out of your wallet, but the idea is that if I can connect with you and find some sort of like level ground, like, wow, this guy understands what I'm dealing with, that person is more likely to at least engage. Not necessarily you're gonna want to utilize us for financing, but you're gonna be more willing to have the conversation if someone's talking to you, not using jargon and not trying to put themselves on some sort of pedestal. The idea is to be the same as your borrower.
Are you doing anything with direct ad placement?
Not as much as I'd like to. That is something that we're exploring, because it's when you don't have a historical track record of doing that, sometimes when an institution has been around for a long time, it's a little hard to kind of get out of your own way. And I say that with all humility. So we are starting to do that, but that is absolutely something I want to explore more, and not just on like Facebook or Instagram. I'm looking more of like targeted online digital advertising placement, like meaning within certain trade associations or things like that.
I see. Okay. And so, what are the core metrics that you're paying the most attention to on a weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, so the core metrics we're paying attention to the most is obviously clicks on email blasts and stuff like that. Actual engage like what's the word I'm looking for? Not engagements, inquiries that come from that digital ad spend, and then most importantly quantifying the digital ad spend, the customer acquisition cost, like for bringing all of those, using that platform, using a digital platform to acquire customers, like what's that actual cost of customer acquisition.
And do you recall offhand what's the response percentage that you're getting with those engagements for the cold outreach?
To tell you the truth, I don't, but I know it's not as good as it should be. It's probably less than 50%. I couldn't give you an exact number, but it's less than 50.
Okay, I see. And so, how about in terms of the competitive landscape? What's the unique value proposition for Pursuit compared to what it's being compared to out there with other similar firms?
Sure. So it's twofold. So one, on the bank side, meaning because we are not a competitor of banks, although we are both a New York State chartered bank and community development financial institution and community development corporation through our various subsidiaries. So number one is convincing bankers that SBA is not your enemy. We're not here to take anything away from you. And most importantly, helping them understand that if I'm a banker that has a relationship that's $20 million in deposits, but for some reason we just don't want to lend to you, that you can utilize a Pursuit to be able to provide the financing. You guys still keep the entire relationship, and at the end of the day, you bring value to the borrower. On the other side of that, meaning the borrower and the marketplace, is helping them understand that not only are we just, are a lending institution, but we are also an advisor too. So we also provide advisory services that are at no cost to the borrower because it's paid for through their interest payments and grants that we have, to help borrowers not only do things like get all your HR stuff, develop an online lending, develop an online presence, put together a strategic growth plan. And then we also, which is really good, is that we've developed a very long-standing relationship with the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. So that is one of the best and most well-known business accelerator programs throughout the country. Through our partnership with them, we've actually become the exclusive capital partner for New York and New Jersey for that program. So it's helping borrowers understand that, A, we're not here to harm you. We do want to help you, We have advice for you, and most importantly, this is a let's call it like almost like Planet Fitness. This is a judgment-free zone, man. We've had we've had I've had borrowers that have been bankrupt, that have been formally incarcerated, that have been every single thing in between. I'm not judge, jury, or executioner. It's not what you did; it's what you did to rectify it. So that's one of the messages that I try to put out there, because you'd be surprised at how many borrowers that, I'll give you another one. This company, Alba Demolition, which is a very large demolition contractor in the city of New York. They do probably 150 million in revenue a year. They're like, the guy is an Irish immigrant and was like a little intimidated by dealing with a banker. So I showed up in sweatpants and a t-shirt on his job site. And by the end of the day, like, we've done 3 504s with him over the last 4 years. So it's dispelling this myth that like banking is this high mythical creature. It's not.
Yeah, that's good. And so where do you see AI making the most immediate impact in your business?
Sure. So definitely on the back end, I think that almost the entirety of the entire closing process and most of the back end underwriting process can be entirely automated. I know AI is still somewhat in its infancy, but even using an example of what we have out there now, if you refine the questions to the right point, at least in my experience in using things like Gemini or Perplexity or ChatGPT, it allows you to really get the answer. You just have to whittle it down. Now, on the front side, I think what will really happen with AI is being able to come up with much better, much more targeted outreach and marketing plans than really most human minds, at least now at this point, are capable.
And that reminds me, I was going to ask you earlier when you were talking about some of the video content that you're able to tell a concise story with different clients and what the funding has been able to do through the SBA programs. Do you have somebody in-house that's working on that full time? Creating, editing, producing that content, and then also being able to make sure that it's distributed at the proper cadence through various different media channels?
Yeah, so within the last 6 months, the answer to that has become yes. Prior to that, and just like many other banking institutions being somewhat archaic in their thinking, I actually just started doing it myself. So I was doing it on my own Instagram page, on my own LinkedIn, and just kind of messing around with Canva and just kind of putting it together that way. And I had brought the idea to our marketing team of if we're going to be claiming that we're out serving the community, like, why don't we showcase that? Like, borrowers are more than willing to help you. Once they have that check in there, once they have that those funds in their hand, they'll do whatever you want. So and when I say that as a joke, right? Like, I helped you get $2 million. Can you tell me a video about how awesome your business is and like why we help? So like, they're more than willing to do that. It's just understanding how to do it properly. And to tell you the truth, it kind of just came to me. I was like scrolling on Instagram one night, and I saw a business owner just walking through their place and showing how cool they were. There's a restaurant that just opened down the block from my house, and I was like, why don't I just do that? So I just started doing it, and then finally I did 2 or 3 of them. I showed the traction that I got on my personal page to our marketing team. And I was like, hey, like, this is more your world than mine, but like, look at what the possibility is here.
Yeah. Jimmy, is there anything else specifically that you wanted to highlight or touch on that we haven't talked about so far?
No, not necessarily, but if there's one thing I would really want to reach on is to have borrowers understand that it's really important to know what's out there and ask the questions. There are no stupid questions. There's no stupid answers. It's getting yourself the appropriate amount of information possible to be able to have the best outcome possible. And most importantly, too, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of bankers, man. We put pants on the same way as everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good point. Good message. Well, Jimmy, this was fantastic. Thanks for taking us inside the realities of 504 lending and how SMBs can access capital smarter. For listeners, if today's conversation was helpful, follow Trust AI Partners and connect with us to keep up with the latest on AI automation and lending innovation. I'm Jim Hoover. We'll see you on the next one. And Jimmy, can you let the audience know if they want to get more information about Pursuit or get in touch with you? Where's the best place to point them towards?
Sure. So you could either call me 646-465-8187 or go to pursuitlending.com.
Old school. I love it. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, man. Have a good day, guys.